Alright, what is up YouTube? MCool40 here with...
Simo!
Finally, he has the beautiful intro back. So, today we're going to be talking about possible card erratas. I know Simo told me before this video that he hates erratas. Just give him the card at full power, right?
I do. Let's talk about that before we go into this. So, I feel like the ban list has so many cards that can come off the list just as they are, and they would have zero effect on the format. And in fact, I've tested this before when I held like little mini tournaments for qualifiers for the Grand Championship. I made custom ban lists and unbanned like 10 to 20 cards. No one used any of them, and they were totally fine. So, but I mean, if erratas, I guess, I mean, in case of Imperial Order, it gets a buff, so I'm not complaining.
I don't know. I was against the erratas when they first came out, but with the mentality that Konami has had as of late with certain things, I guess it kind of makes sense to errata and change cards. I don't like the fact that Goyo got errated being legal. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah, like Goyo has had that errata in the OCG for months, and now we finally got the TCG errata, which makes Goyo Guardian worse and effectively, useless in a lot of cases. So why? Who the fuck knows?
I really don't get it. I'm actually shocked. Also, technically the Necro Valley errata, I'm going to toss it into the pile because Necro Valley didn't really work that way, but, I'll trade my Goyo for a better Necro Valley.
So that's an instance of a good errata because that just made Necro Valley amazing, and it makes it such a good card now that it targets or that it hits things that would move themselves. So before, there's so many other cards that like dodge Necro Valley that it's like, oh, okay, Necro Valley's Necro Valley. But now, like, you can legitimately use that as like a side deck tech against a lot of decks, and I really like that.
I definitely agree with you, but I don't know. It just seems like some days the Konami has a vendetta for certain cards,
Yeah.
aka Stratus.
They have it in two!
I don't know, man. Like, looking at the OCG format, though, like, Sivo also wanted to talk about a little bit in this video, like, nobody's playing Lynx over there now.
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope. Welcome the True King Cosmo Master Race.
I don't understand why they're playing all of those things, but,
Because they don't need an extra deck.
that isn't entirely true. You are perfectly right.
Not that we predicted that in a previous video or anything.
Oh, I know, right? Who would have guessed?
Who would have had us and things that can come back? So, I don't know, Robbie, where do you want to start this? Because this is a pretty big list we have to work with here.
Worst comes to worst, this gets split into a multi-piece of video. So, guys, thumbs up if we don't get through everything today. But I guess we're going to start with towers. So, you guys remember getting this guy on the board required 3 tributes to normal summon him. He's unaffected by spells and traps, and he lowers...
Unaffected by everything.
Yeah, basically. Pretty good card. But looking into Link summoning format, though, okay, you can Pendulum summon 1 Cleefort up in the little tower zone. What do you intend to do? Like, resolving towers outside of Sacrifice at 1 is going to be pretty hard, but... I feel like there's enough restrictions on this card the way it is. The Kaijus exist. I've never seen them change a card for the possibility of it being like tribute 4 monsters outside of like an Earth Tuner. But what do you think here?
So, I feel like this is the perfect example of a card that could just come off the list. Like, it could come off now, pre-Link format, because if people were even crazy enough to run Klee at the moment, people would just be maxing out on Kaijus, and then it wouldn't be an issue, because you have 6 ways to access Kaijus at the very least. So even though Towers is searchable, and there's a lot of ways to kind of like get it on a turn 1, I still think this could come back. And then when Link summoning hits, it's just going to be mainly irrelevant. So there's no way to really errata this that it's, you'd have to either make it less susceptible to card effects, or, I'm sorry, more susceptible to card effects, or you'd have to, I don't even know. Like, it's one of those things that would just be a really weird errata.
So, at this point in time, there's not much we have to do to towers. Even though, the point of this video is discussing erratas. I think the card's perfectly fine the way it is. And it might come back because Konami can't think of an errata for it. which is kind of the ass end logic of this, but it is food for thought. So
Yeah. So, let's talk about the Dragon Rulers as a whole now, because I'll knock 4 out immediately.
oh man, so Blaster, Tidal, Tempest, and Redox. I'm just gonna be straight up blunt with you. They probably should just remove the dragon part from this and just make it be the element. That's something I've seen on a lot of people's discussion videos.
Yeah.
Literally just the fact that, hey, a card exists outside of its own archetype. I mean, not being able to banish the dragon rulers for themselves would incredibly balance them, or they could just not be stupid and put the once per turn clause on the card.
Exactly. Yeah, because I really I was a fan of when people played Tidal and Mermail or played Redox and, a myriad of other decks. It was cool to see it splash that way and used that way. So it's kind of sad that because, they are the Dragon Rulers that, they can't really exist, even though, personally, I think at 1 they were, okay, but...
Tempest was a generic searcher that got punished not because of its searchability, but because of the fact that it literally was abusable with the other rulers.
Yep.
Someone also made the comment to me the other day that they really felt that the Dragon Rulers at 1 was kind of balanced.
Yeah, I think the issue is in the context of when they were at 1, that's when Hieratic Rulers and Lightsworn Rulers were a thing. And in comparison to the other decks at the time, I think their power level was too high. But I think in a format like we have now, I think it would be totally fine to have them back at 1.
The thing is, they also bring up so much diversity in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's a real shame to see them be punished just whether or not the dragon aspect of the cards is so imbalanced.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Konami tried to balance them by making the True Kings, or 2 Dracos.
Tried.
But I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that they're level 7 and the level 7 engine had so many rank 7 abusive cards. But I honestly, just remove the dragon on the special summon card and let them be fine.
Yeah, it's true.
They weren't inherently terrible. They all had all of their effects limited to once per turn, which was already a really good limiter built into the card. But there's not much else to really say about them.
Not really. Then we move on to, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Big Daddy. I was first on the list and still here.
He's already got his errata in Japan. He'll be fine. He'll come back soon.
Yes. But see, that's the thing. So here's my argument. I hate that they errated him because now he sucks and no one wants to play him. And the thing is, if you're going to unban Chaos Emperor Dragon, I want full power, fuck you, Chaos Emperor Dragon, that it's going to be, destroy everything, let's go. That's how I want it to be.
I definitely agree with you, but the fact that I can search this son of a bitch off of Melody now and hold it until the next turn.
Okay, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's fair. I'm completely neglecting that.
I mean, but it's not like you have to play him in the,
If it wasn't searchable.
Oh, but it is searchable. Duh.
It is.
That's the best part about the card.
It is.
I want to play it just because Blue Eyes, man. You already think boss monsters are ridiculous in that deck. You give them one more.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about Victory Dragon next.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
So Victory Dragon, just because of the stipulation you win the match is on the card. I feel that if they just simply errata it to duel, they'll be in a much better situation. That way they won't have to errata the rules of, oh no, you can scoop before the card attacks you directly. And it would be the only legal copy of you win the duel with the card on the field. You know what I mean?
I guess, but I feel like if you're only going to win the duel, is anyone going to play it? No. If you're going to win the match, people might actually be incentivized to play the card. And so, I don't know. That's another instance where I feel like there should be I don't know, because the fact that you can scoop at any point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Makes this card effectively worthless.
We got to clear up something here. I'm stupid. I literally said if it reduces your opponent's life points to 0, you win the match. No, if that you would win the duel either way if it attacks your opponent directly. But what if you had some line on it was like, if your opponent's life points are 6,000 or lower and this card attacks your opponent directly, win the match. Or win the duel, not the match. Jesus. Yeah.
I feel like, okay, if you change it to win the duel, you need to make its other stipulation much more lenient. Like, it would need to be attacks directly or like destroys a monster. It needs to be something much easier to accomplish.
You could do it super hard and be like, if this card's attack points are 6,000 or more, you know?
I mean, that's true.
We've
Megamorph that bitch.
Yeah, dude, we've never had a card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh with a stipulation like that though. Like, you gain a benefit with a card doing something by having its attack points over a value.
A certain value.
There might be something I might be overlooking, but I don't think there's anything like that though.
No, I don't think so either. At least there's not like an archetype that has that theme centralized around it.
Guys, coming to you in 2018, the
Megamorph archetype.
Yeah, that's the dude. Could you imagine if that was how Noble Knights were? You equip them, and if their power exceeds a certain level, they gain an additional effect.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Or like build in a draw card if their attack's over 35 or 100.
If you think about it, that's kind of how the level monsters worked in a way.
Kind
I know
of,
it's not exactly the same, but that's kind of what they were going for. Except our way's not as bad, but. That makes sense for the Noble Knights though, because they have equip cards that raise the attack inherently, and then if they gain more effects based on that, I mean, I guess it's really no different than if they're equipped with multiple cards, then their attack exceeds a certain amount. But I mean, it's a cool thought for an archetype. Though. I like
Konami,
that.
come back and please edit Noble Knights. We need to fix them up. You guys had something good going there, and you fucked it up. All right, I guess next up on our list is Kieran.
Nope, next.
Okay. I mean, you can make Kieran a once per turn effect on your turn only.
Yeah, you could. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next up is Monkey Board. I actually want to talk about Monkey Board. Suck this one up. We got to talk about him.
Talk about Monkey Board. Let's go.
Okay, so Monkey Board Link format could. I would argue could go to 3 because I don't really give a fuck what you're pendulum summoning up in the little tower zone, you know?
Boy, have fun pendulum summoning your one monster.
I mean, how broken is it though to play Monkey Board Search for Sorcerer, Pendulum Sorcerer to grab the Pot of Greed engine though?
That's good, but then okay, you grab the Pot of Greed engine, you get your draw 2, and then you just have a sorcerer on the field.
Okay, well,
and then you have like maybe a normal summon if you didn't already summon Joker. So then you can make one rank 4 play potentially.
Well, to be fair, Zoo is pretty much doing the same thing except draw 4 or 5. You know, a generic
But Zoo doesn't need to rely on the pendulum summoning mechanic, and Zoo can also open up linked zones while also doing the same thing.
Stop ruining my happy thoughts, man. I'm trying to make Monkey Board good.
I know you are.
I don't know. I think Monkey Board's fine as a card. They could make it to where you have to place another card in the pendulum scale in order to gain his effect, which would be fucking bonkers and weird. Yeah. But they could do it. Mm-hmm. Alright, next up is Stratus. Let's make Stratus great again.
I mean, Stratus can come back as it is. It doesn't even need... Like, okay, how would you errata Stratus? You can't search itself?
No. There's an easy way to errata Stratus. You just take the special summon clause off of it, just when this card's normal summon.
Oh yeah, just make it normal sub. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought Stratus would have been one of those cards that would have been perfectly fine if it was just that. And most of the complaints I saw from people in formats complaining about Stratus was just the fact that he could be special summoned and search.
Yeah. That's true, because then you can't hero lives off of him. You can't... Yeah, there's a bunch of things you can't do then.
Yeah, it actually makes Stratus a balanced card. I never thought I'd say that. But...
Alright, let's throw you a curveball. Fiber Jar.
Oh, you're... to be fair, I think Fiber Jar is perfectly fine as a card that reads the words flip in the beginning.
That's true. It is a flip effect, so...
They could heavily errata Fiber Jar to just say, flip if your life points are under 1,000.
Yeah, if you're like losing the game, basically, you can reset.
I would really like that. But then again, self-destruction button exists, and it's not fair for that card to have its stipulation, so that might be too much.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we could go crazy and say if your life points are at 100.
That's so limiting. There's no... It should be like if your life points are lower than your opponent. I feel like that's a very...
If your life points are 7,000 lower than your opponent, make it fucking self-destruction button.
Basically.
I gotta...
How about Construct. Let's move down to let's
Oh,
move
you were
down a
going.
little.
You were. Hold on. No, no. We'll talk about construct, but we're going back up. There's a few other good ones up here that we need to address.
Okay, I want to get to the spells and traps too.
Ah, but that's why part 2 exists. No, you're right. All right. So construct. So must be first special summon. Or yeah, God, I can't fucking read today. Must be first special summon. If this card was special summoned, you can send one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy that monster. And if this card sent to the graveyard, you can target one Shaddoll spell and trap card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So I don't see any problem with this card. I don't know why this card is banned. Catastor sucks ass. I don't know why he's legal at 3 and Construct's banned.
Yeah.
Am I missing something here? Can we just errata this thing and take the if this card is special summoned, send a Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard line?
I think people argue because you get to send the Shaddoll card to the graveyard, that's like the most broken part. Because yeah, like the fact that what are you gonna battle with Construct that's over 2,800 anyway for the most part? I mean, unless you're playing Blue Eyes,
God,
which wasn't
you
back
cock
then.
blocked me.
But and then the fact that recycles, all the Shaddoll fusion monsters have that effect, so like that's fine. So I think the fact that it always is sending another resource to just net you more advantage, I think that's like what makes it so good.
Honestly though, at 1, I don't think this card's much of a problem.
Yeah, I've advocated for it being at 1. It's totally fine. It actually makes Shaddolls like a somewhat viable engine, more so than they are now.
If we're making this argument, we have to make the same argument with Shrit though, because I almost feel it's the same thing. You know, Shrit can go to 1 under the same pretense that Construct could. You know, yeah, it's a 1-of, but like, let's be real. Once that 1-of is exhausted, is the deck really doing anything to you?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
That's something I think a lot of players seem to, I guess, neglect. Is like, sure, like Shaddolls are a broken deck. Same thing with, you know, Necros. But once they lose that one card that's limited, it's kind of like they've exhausted their load. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the same thing that they had to just recently do to Zoo to balance the deck. You know, the fact that go on.
It's kind of like their power play is like once they do their power play, the deck is no longer as scary as it was before.
Yeah, exactly. And by today's standards, those power plays under Shrit and under Construct, they're not that hard to break.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess there's ways around it too, because then people would play cards like Call of the Haunted and stuff to resurrect the Construct, or you know, there's ways to recycle these cards that people, if they really were dedicated to playing Necros or playing Shaddolls, that they would use to their fullest advantage. So.
Oh man,